I'm Ricky. I jumped out of bed as soon as my phone alarm went off. I'd been consistently waking up at 2 a.m. to play Roblox until about 5 in the morning. Then I'd go back to bed and sleep until it was time for school. I was so sleepy during the day, but I would still wake up at night to play Roblox because I enjoyed it so much. One night, while playing Roblox in the dark in a total trance, the light in my room suddenly turned on. I got caught. I turned my head, shivering with fear. My parents stood in the doorway. My mom sounded disappointed. "Honey, I can't believe it. Are you so addicted to your games that you have to sneak in the middle of the night? How long has this been going on?" she asked. My dad was absolutely furious.
"Ricky, from now on, no more video games for you. You're not allowed anywhere near the computer. I'm confiscating your phone as well," he yelled.
My parents had a right to be angry with me. To be honest, I was going crazy with Roblox. Over the next few days, my Roblox addiction started getting to me. I couldn't think of anything but Roblox. "Please let me play for an hour after school," I pleaded with my parents. "I promise I'll never play anything more than that." But they wouldn't listen. I begged them so much that my dad finally gave in under one condition. I had to do chores in exchange for time playing Roblox. An hour of helping earned me 15 minutes to play Roblox. This meant that I had to work 4 hours to play Roblox for just one. Sounds strict, I know, but what choice did I have? After getting home from school, I cleaned out the garage, mowed the lawn, and did a bunch of laundry. That hour of Roblox after work had never been so much fun. One day, my dad said,
"Since you've taken such good care around the house, I have an offer for you. You know that your grandma lives alone. How do you feel about earning more Roblox hours doing her chores?"
I always loved going to my grandmother's house. I'd take any excuse to see her more. "I'd be happy to help out," I said. But I paused for a moment, thinking about how I could sweeten the deal. "It takes a half hour to get to Grandma's by bus. You've got yourself a deal if you count my time on the bus toward my chore time," I replied.
"Deal," my dad said, laughing. "I like this Roblox game. It definitely keeps you productive."
When I got to Grandma's, I told her about my agreement with my dad. "Great," she laughed. "Actually, there's not much work to do in my house. You can do my grocery shopping, some minor chores, and sit and watch TV with me. The last part can be our little secret." On the days I went to Grandma's, I never felt tired. I'd quickly finish a few chores, and she'd make popcorn on the stovetop. Then the two of us would watch a movie on Netflix. Thanks to my grandma, earning Roblox hours was easy. One afternoon, while getting her groceries, I noticed that most of the items on her list were for me. I immediately recognized the ingredients for Grandma's famous cinnamon rolls. She made them just the way I liked them when I got back. That day, as I was leaving, she said, "Rent's due today. Do you mind heading to the ATM and dropping my rent at the front office? But then I'll have your card until my next visit. Are you sure you won't need it?" I asked her. "I've got everything I need here at home, thanks to you. Plus, I only use that card to get cash for the rent. You can keep the card and give it back to me next time you're here," she replied. I needed the password for the card to take out the money. I was surprised to find out that it was my birth year. Knowing Grandma had picked my birth year instead of any of her other grandkids made me proud. I had to ask why. "Maybe it's because you're my favorite grandchild. What do you think?" she said, giving me a big hug. I knew my grandmother loved me, but that was the first time I realized I was her favorite. I left her house and went to the closest ATM to get the money. Then I went to her building's management office and paid her rent. I took the bus back home. While playing Roblox later that night, I remembered a new game my friends mentioned at school. I was disappointed to learn it was paid, and even though I had previously bought some paid games on Roblox, none of them were this expensive. That's when I got an idea. I still had Grandma's card. I could just buy some Robux and explain during my next visit. She'd understand. After all, I was her favorite grandchild. I needed 1,700 Robux for the game, which cost about $20 on my grandma's card. The next evening, I saw another paid game on Roblox. I'd already registered my grandma's debit card to my account. I figured it would be okay to spend more of her money since she loved me. That's what I told myself as I bought 4,500 Robux. Unfortunately, the same thing happened the following evening. I can spend however much I want from my grandma's card, I told myself. I'm her favorite grandchild. I'm sure she'll be happy to find out I'm having so much fun with my favorite game. I bought 20,000 Robux with my grandma's debit card that night, and spent it all on masks, hats, t-shirts, and games. When I went to do my grandma's chores, I gave her debit card back. "You can keep it and pay the rent again next month," she said. I felt incredibly guilty, but I'd spent so much money from her bank account that I was too ashamed to say anything. All I was able to manage was, "You keep the card. I don't feel comfortable carrying it around." As I was leaving, Grandma asked, "Ricky, is everything okay with you today? Or did something happen at home?" I forced a smile and said, "No, it's all good." "Oh, I'm so glad. You're such a good boy. I'd do anything to see you happy," she said, giving me a big hug. It wouldn't have been an issue if I had stopped there. Yes, I would have let Grandma down, but I'm sure she would have forgiven me. Unfortunately, I didn't stop. Grandma's card was linked to my Roblox account. This meant that I could spend as much as I wanted, and that's exactly what I did, recklessly. I was out of control. I kept buying Robux non-stop, spending it on trivial things as if Roblox had possessed me. One night, when I tried to buy more Robux, I got an error message saying, "Not enough funds in your bank account." That was the moment I realized I'd wasted every cent Grandma had. The worst part was the rent was due the next day. When I arrived at Grandma's, I forced myself to ring the bell. I was sure she would send me to pay the rent at some point. There weren't many errands to run that day. Grandma treated me to her fantastic cooking, and we had such a great time together. But the moment I feared most arrived as I was leaving. She handed me her debit card and said, "Ricky, would you please get the money from the ATM and pay the rent?" I took the card without saying anything. As soon as I was outside, I couldn't contain myself. I started crying. There was no point in going to the ATM because there was no money left in Grandma's bank account. I had spent it all, down to the last penny. I wasn't going to be able to pay Grandma's rent. She'd get evicted from her house because of me. My thoughts rushed to find a solution, but I couldn't think of anything. When I got back home, my eyes were puffy and red from crying. When my mom saw me, she was worried. "Ricky, what's wrong, honey?" she asked. My dad was also curious to hear what I had to say. At that moment, I knew there was no other way out of this. The tears started flowing again. "I'm so sorry. I did something terrible. Grandma asked me to get the money from her bank account to pay her rent, but I couldn't do it because I spent all the money in her account on Roblox," I said. Dad gave me a wild-eyed look.
"What do you mean? Why did you have your grandma's money in the first place?" he asked.
"She gave me her debit card. I put her card info on my Roblox account. I don't even know how much I've spent, but whatever amount she had in that account is long gone," I sobbed. My mom stood in shock. "Am I hearing this correctly? Did you really just go and spend all of that poor woman's life savings on a game?" I didn't have anything to say. I simply nodded in shame.
"I can't allow someone so irresponsible to live in this house. You're not our son anymore. We're disowning you," my dad screamed.
I had no idea his reaction would be so extreme. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I'll never touch Roblox again. Please forgive me," I begged. "Don't apologize to us. Go apologize to your grandmother. Your father's right. We can't let you live in this house anymore," Mom agreed. That night, my parents disowned me. I had nowhere to go but Grandma's. I owed her a big apology. I had to confess everything and ask her to forgive me. When I made it to Grandma's, she welcomed me with all smiles. "Oh, Ricky, you poor dear. Your dad called me and told me everything. Come on in. You can stay with me until we get this mess sorted," she said. "But Grandma, I spent all of your money. How are you going to pay rent? Where are we going to go? I'm so sorry for what I did. Please forgive me." I started mumbling through my tears. She said, "Oh, I've known about that this whole time. When you made your first purchase, I got a notification from the bank. At first, I didn't pay much attention, but the messages kept coming. I called the bank and transferred my money into a different account. By the time I was able to stop it, you had managed to spend $1,800. I can't imagine how a smart young man spends that much on a game, but I'm glad that you finally saw your mistake." I couldn't believe it, but having her forgiveness was such a relief. "Grandma, you have no idea how much this means to me. I was so scared that I had spent all of the money you had," I said, hugging her tightly. I've been living with my grandmother since that day. I've entirely cut Roblox out of my life, as you might have guessed. I've been working part-time after school. I'm determined to pay back the $1,800 I spent, even if it takes months. My parents are still mad at me, and they have every right to be. I miss them a lot. Hopefully, they can find it in their hearts to forgive me one day.